Everyone, I'm glad to be here, and I'm excited to present to you about discussing a parallel career. I wanted to tell you a little bit more about my background just to start. In addition to my academic credentials and being a professor and a program director at American Public University, I've also been involved with a number of very large projects. I have been involved with the building of 15 different ships, primarily passenger vessels, as well as tankers, as well as construction projects such as the renovation of an island and a terminal. The island and terminal actually were done when I was with Disney Cruise Line, as well as doing a number of ships for Crystal, Disney, Viking, American Classic Voyage, and Seacorps. So I do have a strong understanding of project management, as well as having some academic credentials. But today I wanted to talk to you about something called building a parallel career. I feel it's something important to everyone involved in project management or any field, because there's a lot of things about any personal career that you have that can change. So anyone who's understanding or interested in dealing with and coping with change, this would be of particular interest. I want to now talk about the agenda. We're going to start by defining and explaining and talking about a parallel career. We'll discuss some concepts that I call local loyalty or personal loyalty. And then we'll talk about how a person should go about doing a skills assessment and skill management. I will also speak education and training and how those things impact a parallel career. We'll then speak about informal training and things that are maybe you don't get a degree or certificate for, but are particularly relevant when mapping out your parallel career. And then we'll have a discussion about how to bring it all together, and then how to build on what you have in order to really move your parallel career forward. So that's the agenda that we'll have today. At the end, we'll have some question and answer time. So feel free to put any questions that you have, write them up. They will be monitored, and if I don't answer them during the presentation, we'll cover it at the end. So please make sure to put any questions that you have down. Okay. Here's a couple quotes that are particularly meaningful to me when you start talking about a parallel career. If you take a look and you think about turnover in most organizations, you know, the statistics here are quite enlightening, because it implies that, you know, half your employees are going to be changing somewhere between 4 and 7 years. Kind of gives the idea that any kind of position you may have in an organization will unlikely be a lifelong position. There's no guarantee that you're going to have a job in any particular field or role, so one needs to think about it. The other one by Peter Drucker in particular is moving to me, because when you think about, you know, if you have about 50 years of working life, give or take a few years maybe if you have different degrees or spent time in college, and a successful company is about 30 years, it tells you that even if you stay dedicated to any particular organization, the likelihood of it lasting you know, a very long time is very unlikely. In fact, when you take a look at the you know, the Fortune 100 companies that have been on that list for you know, 100 years, you really only come up with General Electric as being the only company that has really stood the test of time. So it is something to think about, even when you you know, get a great job with a company that seems very strong and solvent and will last for a long time. It may or may not come to pass, you know, and I can mention some brands that, you know, we all had known in the past and that are faltering nowadays. You know, we take a look at retailers like Sears and Kmart that in the past had been around for a long time, had a long history, and now seem to be struggling. You know, once again, business is business, and, you know, some companies are going to rise to the top. So essentially, what a parallel career is think about it as project managers, you need to have a plan and consider it kind of like a risk plan that you would have for your personal career. Meaning the risks are clear out there based on this slide. You know that the likelihood of staying with a company for the duration of your life is low, and so the probability of having to find another role is something that you'll have to think about. Next, career is not guaranteed. you need to kind of start as a project manager, develop a plan, and think of it this way. As a project management professional, what would you do if tomorrow if all the project management jobs were to disappear? Not likely to happen, but it does put you in the mindset of suddenly, well, what can you do? Where do you go? And there are many careers that have been slowly or have gone away completely. And I'll mention a few, like elevator operators. They had a very strong union, and they were doing pretty well. And then one day, someone developed technology that made the person operating the elevator go away. We see the same thing happening with machinists. Again, as robots and technology are getting more efficient and accurate, there are fewer kind of master machinist positions. Like, for example, taxi drivers. We see companies like Uber going into those areas. So a lot of different positions are going away, either because of technology or perhaps robotics. So it's something to think about. What are you going to do? And accept that you may not be in a career for the rest of your life, and you may not be with the only one company. And one has to consider what you agree in, what other roles might be applicable, what you could do. Because many project managers don't necessarily have a project management degree. They may have a degree in accounting, finance, operations management, or something else. Because once again, project management is sometimes an acquired skill. Sometimes I see a lot of engineers going into that field. So you may have some other skills that may be relevant in the event that a project management role may go away. But the point here is know that all roles are temporary, and one should not define themselves by their role. And now where I talk a little bit about logo loyalty or personal loyalty. This is where a person needs to kind of really think about what they're going to do when they're in a particular role, because they take a job, it might be with a good company, and then they have to decide how loyal are they going to be to that company. Now, I'm not saying that you should actively do things wrong at your company, but I am pointing out that your company may not be as loyal to you as you may be to them. Again, they are paying your paycheck, you are doing a job, and you're being paid for that job. But if the economic climate were to change, there's no belief that role is going to stay around forever. And just because you've been there 5, 10, 15, 20 years, will it mean that they're going to keep you until you retire? And you have the fact that business is business, and companies change their position, their market, and what they do. Companies also may go bankrupt. I was with a large company for a number of years, and it seemed that they were expanding quite well and things were going well for them, and then suddenly the economy turned, and I found myself looking for work. So it may not even be from your own efforts. It may be due to external circumstances beyond your control. So one needs to keep that in mind, but at the same time, you have to kind of develop what I would call a personal loyalty, where you're kind of loyal to yourself and your career, and you need to build upon that. It's something that you need to be thinking about. I'm not saying that every year you should send your CV or your resume out to other companies, but you should keep an eye on what's happening with the competition, with the market, with the marketplace,